Hi there, Scott Hamilton, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review for your ears. My copy came in Saturday, so I'm posting an early review of Bodies, 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 the Best Buy 4K exclusive edition. Be out tomorrow if I post this tonight. This hit South by Southwest earlier this year back in March and finally got released in the United States, wide release back in August. And it did play here, and I didn't get a chance to see it. It was only here for a week or two. And it seemed like it didn't have a whole lot of showings like the big releases. Turns out the movie only made like $13 million. I couldn't really find what the original budget was, but considering Lee Pace is the biggest actor in it, or Pete Davidson, I guess, I don't think it had a huge budget. Very few special effects. You know, it was basically actors in a single location for the most part. So it couldn't have been too expensive a film, but it only making $13.6 million was not a big hit. Critics-wise, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. Most of the critics I respect liked it. So I wanted to see it. And when it was announced for home video, it's getting a wide DVD and Blu-ray release, but the only 4K version you can buy is at Best Buy. And it'll be out Tuesday. Mine shipped early and arrived on Saturday. Watched it Saturday night, and you're getting this review hopefully on Monday night. This is going to be one of the most divisive movies of the year because it's been described as a horror movie, a slasher movie, a horror comedy, slasher comedy, etc. It's not really those things. It is a comedy. And it is a bit of a horror movie, but it's not like any that have been produced lately. I think it's funny that they bring up Tucker and Dale versus Evil as a related thing on Wikipedia. I mean, similar, I guess, in nature, but I won't get into the spoilers. I will do a second podcast because I do want to discuss the spoilers and the end of the movie and all that kind of stuff, but I'll keep it clean for this because I'm getting a review out early. This doesn't happen very often, and when I do, they seem to get more views or listens, so let's stick to the movie. If you've seen the trailers, it's about a whole bunch of Gen Z characters who a hurricane is coming. They decide to have a hurricane party. They're all rich. They're all very not nice people. You're going to have to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours with these people as they go through this. It's a 90-minute movie, 94 minutes, something like that. It didn't feel long at all, actually. But again, if you're looking for a horror movie, there's not a whole lot of kills. There are kills and there is gore, but it's not spaced throughout the entire movie like modern horror movies are. Not exactly a slow burn either. Why this movie's going to be so divisive, just to get into it, it is like a Gen X Twitter feed or social media feed, the worst possible version of which, and you have to sit there with these people for 90 minutes and hear them talk to each other that way and pick on each other that way and put each other down that way, and it's, you know, it's basically your worst nightmare. And then the movie is supposed to appeal to that target audience. So those of us that can take ourselves out, because I'm not Gen Z, I guess, I didn't, but I did know what was going on, what they were talking about, how they were talking, the references they used, the frame, and I realized that it was very funny from the get-go, and it was very funny throughout the entire movie. Some people, this is going to hit right between the eyes. They're not going to think it's funny at all. And that's, I think, some of the people it's marketed to. So where the 14% that didn't like it, those are people who probably didn't get it. Satire sometimes goes over people's heads, and that's not, always a bad thing. Some people like very in-your-face, explain to you kind of things that are going on in the movie or book or what, or TV show or whatever. This is not that. This is the English language debut of a director named Helena Regin. She is Dutch. First English, she was an actress, had some pretty big roles over there, and started directing, and this is her first American movie. Amanda Steinberg, Maria Baklakova, Chase Sui Wonders, Rachel Sennett, Lee Pace, Pete Davidson. Those are the big stars in this Sony Pictures movie, but it's A24. So if you're familiar with A24 horror movies, you know what to expect. This is going to be something different. And it is something different. When I think of a horror comedy that works well, that's anything from Army of Darkness, The Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, all the way up to Ready or Not. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Even Cabin in the Woods, to me, is kind of a horror comedy, even though it's a little bit more horror than comedy, but it is funny. This is more social commentary. That's what makes it funny. And then there's some horror attached to it, but then there's the twist. So the hurricane happens, the power goes out, and they play Bodies, 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 which is kind of an update of Clue. They pick from little torn pieces of paper. One has an X. That person will be a bad guy. Everybody else are victims. And they kind of have to, the lights are off, and they have to hide and cover up things, and a little bit of hide and seek or whatever. And then somebody winds up dead. So they think there's a stalker or a killer, slasher, whatever going on. And that's what takes this all happens in the beginning. No spoilers there. That's the plot of the movie. And so they're trying to figure out what happened, who did it, whatever. And so it's kind of an update of Clue with Gen Zers, whatever, but it's also a big social satire making fun of, some of how they deal with each other and such. And I think it nails it. I laughed through the entire movie. Even the twist was just, that's really good. I thought it was a really well-made movie. But in watching it, realized that some of my friends will watch it and go, oh, well, it's just kind of boring and just kind of dull. Well, if you don't get the humor of it or the satire of it, it might be. But again, it is very much a satire based on commenting on some of that Gen Z stuff and how they talk to each other, how they deal with each other and all of that you see on social media. They're kind of explaining it in the movie. And then it's kind of funny to watch them talk to each other that way. So this may not be your cup of tea, but if it is, it's really well done. It has a good twist. And to talk about the 4K, all right, the main reason I was going to pick it up is because before it was released, they said it was going to be a native 4K transfer in Dolby Atmos. And I just prefer that. It looks more filmic than a Blu-ray. Even though I have thousands of Blu-rays, I'm preferring 4K these days to look more like what I saw in the theater if I got to see it in the theater. And I have a bunch coming in this week that were all on sale or pre-ordered, so you've got a whole bunch of reviews coming. But in the meantime, this one's arrived early. Oh, I can't wait. Bullet Train is going to arrive today. That was probably one of my favorite movies in the theater this year. So you'll get a review of that later this week. But Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. It's typical A24 in being a movie that's different than a mainstream movie, although it was marketed kind of as a mainstream movie. It's definitely not X or that series of movies that they're also making. It is a combination of social commentary, horror, comedy, and all that. I think it was well done. I'm glad I have it in the collection because I'll rewatch it with people who would probably appreciate it. And it is, it is what it is. So take that a little bit. We'll do another spoiler podcast later in the week where I will talk about the twist and what everything all kind of meant to me. But I think it's worthy of picking up, at least a rental. You may not have to own it, may not be one you want to rewatch, but I think everybody should probably watch it once to see how much they like it. That's usually what I do with movies that maybe didn't get great reviews or, I wasn't hot to see, but I saw some good things about it, so I'll stream it, and then if I like it, I'll purchase it if it's something I want to watch again. This was a movie that I just didn't get to see in theaters, and there were enough good reviews. It was 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. I figured overall I would like it. So that's why I picked it up. It was pretty cheap, too. Wasn't as much as your typical 4K, but you can only get them at Best Buy, so this week they will probably sell out of them. I don't know if the movie's going to do that big on home video. It didn't do that well in the theaters, but a lot of people are still talking about it. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, definitely check it out. If it doesn't sound like your cup of tea, please go watch Ready or Not or Tucker and Dale versus Evil, because I think those are more mass appeal comedies that would appeal to somebody who's looking for this kind of movie. But you should check out Bodies, Bodies, Bodies if you're interested in anything that I've talked about. I thought it was incredibly well done. The direction is probably the strongest about it. The script gave enough room for actors, at least from what I could tell, they could expand on things. I don't think they were like religiously tied. It seemed like there was not so much ad-libbing, but just people in the moment saying probably the more close to reality thing that those characters would say. I thought everybody inhabited their characters very well. Because we all have our opinions on the Gen Z. I don't even look at people in those generational things, but this obviously focuses on. But Lee Pace was in there, so he's an older guy who's hanging out with them, and that was kind of the complication of things, but I thought he did a great job with the role he had. He's played everything from superheroes to supervillains to far-reaching, far future rulers to this dude who's like basically Matthew McConaughey surfer dude. So good actor all around for Lee Pace. But the movie is quite entertaining. If again, you listen to what I've said about it, if you go in thinking it's a comedy slasher movie, it doesn't feel like that unless you get that level of sarcasm and satire that's layered over the top of it. Then it is pretty funny, right? It took me a few minutes to get into the vernacular and into, the gist, but after about 5-10 minutes, I'm like, oh, just about everything was funny. In the beginning, it was like, oh, this is kind of, okay. Oh. because they're playing the characters very deadpan, very realistically, saying things that in real life you may not say, but you'd say it on social media or whatever. So I just found as I got into the cadence of it and what they were actually trying to do, it became funnier and funnier. Now, that being said, I rewatched over the weekend Everything Everywhere All at Once, another A24 movie that's completely different kind of movie, but I just thought was one of the better movies of the year. I wouldn't say Bodies, one of the better movies of the year, but it's a cut above what we normally get calling a slasher movie or a slasher comedy. So there's more to it than appears on the surface. So check it out. Streaming, Blu-ray, or 4K only at Best Buy. Bodies is available on Tuesday, October the 18th. I'm Scott Hamilton. I'm ROCKFILE. Thanks for hanging out for 10 minutes and listening to me review a movie that I couldn't get into spoilers. But like I said, there will be a second podcast coming where we'll talk some details about Bodies. And more reviews are coming this week. I hope you enjoy this extra one. Check it out. I'm updating Patreon if I can get in there. That's a whole other technical issue. Bros for Life is going to get off the ground even more than it has already, so please subscribe. And please subscribe to my YouTube if you haven't yet. I'm getting a lot of traction over there, and it would help. If I got more subscribers, I would make money instead of YouTube making more money. So there's that. Fight the man. Have a spectacular day, and thanks for listening.